So President Trump is calling out Pocahontas, Elizabeth Warren, in his latest campaign appearances. And the left is going berserk over this. They claim that it's racist for President Trump to call Elizabeth Warren Pocahontas. This is a good example of racist action versus racist, potentially or possibly racist rhetoric. It's not really racist. The racist action is Elizabeth Warren financially benefiting from and advancing her career as a result of claiming to be a minority, in this case Native American, in order to get tenure at Harvard and get a professorship at the University of Pennsylvania. This is obviously an abuse of a system that we would conventionally assume that the left loves, which is affirmative action, giving people advancement based upon their race or some other category that's deemed as oppressed. And Elizabeth Warren, of course, took this kind of action, which is genuinely racist, actually, by using race, unlawfully, actually, or inappropriately, certainly, to advance her career. Now, if Elizabeth Warren wants to actually quell the controversy, she could authorize Harvard to release the transcripts of her application so we can know for sure whether or not she checked off the box. But Elizabeth Warren refuses to do that. So the Boston Globe, the Boston Herald, Massachusetts media can only speculate about it, and did so during her original campaign. So it wasn't really necessarily a conservative group that was critical of her for this. Yet President Trump, in his inimitable style, has called her out on it, has called her fake. You know, in Massachusetts, we tend to use the word Pokahontas, the fake Indian, because it's an offense to Native Americans who otherwise, based upon affirmative action, whether you support the program or not, would have benefited from that program had not Elizabeth Warren gone in and seized that spot and that opportunity and taken it away from a genuine Native American. So, you know, it's a difference between racist actions, which is what Elizabeth Warren represents, and alleged racist rhetoric, which is what President Trump is being accused of. Now, President Trump can be very blunt and he can be cruel, but he tends to identify falsity. He identifies injustices. He identifies phoniness in his own way. And I compare that to the way President Ronald Reagan talked about the Soviet Union, talked about Vladimir Lenin and their doctrines, and quoted from it. And for doing that, he came under withering and vicious attack by the left, which hated anti-communists more than they hated communists. Now, I'm not suggesting the left was communist back then, of course, but they despised Reagan for the very fact that he exposed the nature of communism. And yet, by doing so, Reagan and like-minded, genuinely progressive and liberal and conservative leaders around the world, including Margaret Thatcher, Pope John Paul II, and then behind the Iron Curtain, Lech Walesa and Václav Havel and others, they were able to bring the Soviet Union, the great last leftist experiment, to its knees without firing a shot. So Reagan obviously has been vindicated. And I think that Trump, in his own quiet way, or maybe not so quiet way, will be vindicated as well, because he is taking on the fake news. He is calling for truth. And in this case, that's well overdue with regard to the phony Elizabeth Warren, which is a subject that I could get into at much greater detail at another time. Anyways, thanks for watching, everybody.